it's yeah, it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging. I'm just going to get us set up to be live on Facebook now, so bear with me for a second. I'm just going to get us online on Facebook because it's literally going to be 12 o'clock in a few seconds time, and then we go live. And what I'm also going to do, Shirley, is I'm going to read the foreword that you have written as an introduction to you as well, because I think it's such a powerful message that the foreword carries. So I thought that would be a nice way to also kick off with it. So I'm just going to quickly get the Facebook up and running. Okay, we are going live on Facebook. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a beautiful Sunday in Johannesburg, and it's such a wonderful opportunity to again celebrate women. We're coming to the end of Women's Month, and it has been an extraordinary month. You know, with lockdown and everything that's happening around us and circumstances beyond our control, we've been very fortunate to be able to have these virtual meetings with those remarkable women who have been so gracious in affording us their time, first of all, to be part of this project. And then, of course, to be able to interview them, to be able to get to know a little bit more about them, about their personal journeys, about their personal stories, their personal triumphs, their despair, their pain, their joy. So today, Sunday, the 30th of August, we are again celebrating one of these remarkable women. And before I actually introduce her, I would like to read the foreword, which is in the book and actually introduces who this remarkable woman is and how she has made this really valued contribution. This is what she writes in the foreword of Forgotten Woman, the South African Story. This is a compelling must-read, especially in these unprecedented times of the global pandemic, COVID-19. The World Health Organization made the official announcement on the 11th of March 2020 that COVID-19 is a global pandemic and a global health crisis. Since then, we have experienced its devastating impact on society, the economy, business, and the health of people. We are also experiencing the profound impact of this pandemic on women and children in particular, and the amplified impact caused by pre-existing inequalities. This book is a call to action for women and men who are seeking to truly build a better world for all. Every chapter captures the essence and the spirit of the valiant, pioneering women who have overcome many social adversities that have silenced the voices of women. This book enables us to hear those stories. These women have gone on to rise up, and they courageously share their stories. These are the stories of the forgotten women. Forgotten women are those who, as a result of systemic sexism, have not been heard, not been supported, not been empowered. Through sheer courage, they have significantly changed the course of their lives and those of their families, communities, and society. And yet they have been overlooked, dehumanized, raped, killed, rejected, subjugated, and abandoned. I salute the brave women who put pen to paper and shared their stories in this extraordinary read. Every chapter has a unique story that is often painful yet powerful. Every chapter is a transformational and inspirational story. These are stories of women mobilizing against prejudice and inequality and lack of resources and opportunity. These are stories of intense determination, diligence, and dedication to rise up and step forward despite the odds. Isn't that absolutely extraordinary? These are such deep and profound words. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the wonderful and the gracious Professor Shirley Zinn. So Shirley, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am thrilled to have you online with me today. It's an absolute pleasure, you sitting there in your Cape Town home and myself in my home in Little Falls, Roodepoort, Johannesburg. Isn't the virtual space just wonderful, Shirley? Brings us together from all parts of the world.
Amazing.
So
and
Shirley,
thank you so much, Charlotte, for having me.
It's indeed my sincerest pleasure. So Shirley, we've gotten to know one another over a period of years now, and you so kindly have accepted the role as the patron of the Women of Stature Foundation, which is the reason why this book has actually been created, and it's to help us to raise needed funds to help women in distress. And you've made such an incredible contribution over the past years since taking on this role. But we want to know more about you, Professor Shirley Zinn. What got you to where you are today? Where did you grow up? Tell us a bit about your childhood and growing up into the woman that you are today.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you for that very gracious introduction. I'm truly humbled and honored to be here today. I was so honored when you asked me to be the patron of this beautiful foundation for women of stature. And then, of course, to start the project around the book. I was very, very excited to be able to make a contribution. And so, Charlotte, just a little bit about my upbringing. For those of you who don't know, I also wrote my own book called Swimming Upstream. It's a story of my personal and my professional journey. So there'll be many more details in there than I'm able to share with you in this next minutes. But I will take you on a quick little, journey of my life. I was born, and let's just say this and be done, Charlotte, in 1961. And of course, I was, born in Cape Town, grew up on the Cape Flats in some very, very tough spaces in Cape Town. Lots of gangsterism, drugs, lots of despair, high unemployment, and very little hope, especially for young girls. And so, although my parents themselves did not finish high school, they somehow knew the importance of education, and that somehow that was going to liberate us. I have a sister that's 3 years old, 3 years younger than I am. And so, of course, in very early days, my dad used to sit us down and say, please don't get caught up in this place. We don't want teenage pregnancies. We want you to study hard, just make something of your life, make something from nothing. And eventually I said to him, so Dad, what is it that you would like us to do? And he said, just please get your matric, and then you can go to work and you'll have a better job than most. And so I promised him then, I said, you know what, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get to matric. And we know, Charlotte, what the statistics are for children who get on in grade 1 and never make it, through to grade 12. And in many ways, they are also forgotten. And so, of course, my mom on the flip side was more around values and, about how you live your life and how you behave. So things like respecting other people, valuing people, being humble, which is not about being a doormat, but not being arrogant. It's that kind of humility that we need in the world today. She used to speak about, you got to work hard for what things are not just going to fall out of the air. But she also used to say, you've got to work hard and you've got to do things to the very, very best of your ability, whatever it is you do. So the combination of hard work and excellence is something that I learned about at an early age. And another thing she said was, try to live your life in service of others, and try to be kind. This world needs kindness. And I think that message is even more enduring today as we suffer through a very, very, very difficult time, period in our history, but period in our lives. This pandemic happened in our lifetime, and it's brought so many things to the fore. And these lessons that both my father and mother taught us about, they didn't use big words like vision and values, but that was the message, and these are the messages that have stayed and shaped me to try and improve and harness everything that I've got. And one of the big lessons that I've taken, out of life that I'd like to share today as well is that the whole idea about being perfect, I think a lot of us fall into that space where we beat ourselves up because we're not perfect and we're not good enough and we feel inadequate. And I want to say to you today, you are worthy and you don't have to be perfect. You just do the best you can. That's all you can possibly do. And you be the best you can be. And that wonderful magic within yourself, let that shine. And so of course, we went to primary school, my sister and I. We had to walk down quite a dicey road. So we ended up staying with my grandmother on the other side of the school. It was safer. And of course, I have to give it to my grandmother today. Even though as young children, we were rebellious and we wanted to stay at home with our mom and dad, our grandparents and our extended families, and sometimes not even biological, there are so many people along the way that help us with our journey. And we need to show that gratitude to people who have planted seeds within us. And my grandmother was one of them. She used to say, you can play until 5, but don't come at 5 minutes past 5 because you're late and then you won't play tomorrow. So it was kind of tough, but I'm grateful again for discipline, for determination and dedication and diligence. These are the things that she taught us. And so that I took all of that on board. And when I finally got to matric, Charlotte, I was thrilled. I was so excited. I was daunted because you got to write this massive exam and pass. But I thought, yeah, I'm actually finally achieving something that I set out for myself. And as a young woman then, and my dream and my dad's vision for us was going to come true. And so in the middle of that year, it was 1979, 2 teachers sat me down, Mr. Najan, Mr. Isaacs, and they said to me, you know what? You're not the brightest pea in the pod. We know you're working hard, but you're not kind of smashing the lights out. You're not getting straight A's and all of that. But here's the thing, Charlotte, that really changed my life forever. And I want to say to anybody that's listening, they said to me, you have the potential to do much, much more than you think is possible. And I sat there and I tried to absorb what it was that they were saying. And it was like a gift that they gave to me, because that 5-minute conversation changed my life forever. I said to them, what is it that you'd like me to do now? They said, we want you to go home and have a conversation about university to your parents. And I said, well, that's not going to fly anyway, because, it's just not part of our worldview. It's not possible for me to do this. And they said, well, go home and have the conversation and you come back tomorrow and you tell us what they said. And so I went off home and I had the conversation with them. And they said, you know what, this stuff is going to take time and money. There's a high risk that you're not going to pass, and that's that, that whole thing about you're not the brightest pea. Hey, you can listen to those messages. We often get those messages about what you can't, and that you shouldn't probably be even thinking about doing such a thing. It's outrageous. It's too ambitious. It's too aspirational. But it is doable. And all these years later, I can reflect back and say, my goodness, imagine I didn't have that conversation. And each one of us has the capacity to inspire another person. And there's so much deep fulfillment that comes out of just planting a seed like that, Charlotte. So, of course, I went back to school the next day and my parents said to me, you can study, but you are going to have to do your chores over the weekend, and you're going to have to go and work as well and earn some money. So I did some working in retail over the weekends, and learned about the value of money there as well. But the point was that in 1980, I was in my first year at the University of the Western Cape. These teachers helped me to fill in my forms and helped me to apply for a government bursary, which I got. And those days you could only get government bursaries for being a teacher and a nurse and a social worker, I think. So I decided, let's take the first step. And in that moment, and this is also another lesson I can extract from that, is to say, sometimes a gift comes, or a stepping stone comes in a way that you don't anticipate it. And you say, well, that's not quite what I wanted to do. And you miss a great opportunity. And so for me, this was one of those kinds of things, but I didn't think I was going to be a teacher, but hey, this is the opportunity. And taking that first step is such an important thing to do. And so here I was in first year in 1980. And I want to say thank you to those teachers. I want us all, I'm sure we all have teacher stories that we can tell. But those two particularly, I was very, very fortunate to have had that kind of conversation. And those conversations, Charlotte, are the kind of conversations that we need to start having, especially with young people at a very, very early age, because it affirms you, it uplifts you, it makes you believe in yourself. These people believed in me before I believed in myself. And I'm truly, truly grateful for what they unleashed in me. So I want to say to everybody, you have potential, you have talent. You might, not want to use your talent because you're anxious about what if you fail, what if it doesn't work. And some of us go through our entire lives without, having that beauty and that magic being unleashed. And so I want to say to you today, if you're deferring or postponing or thinking you can't, try it. Give yourself this chance. Give yourself the opportunity. And I want to say also that after that, I was in my first year. You might remember there was a huge educational uprising in 1980, and the university closed because it was literally, there were fires at the university. And so I, started to connect the dots also between the apartheid regime of the day, the, socioeconomic challenges that we grew up in, and where education fitted into all of this and why it was so important to focus on that. And the lesson is not to do many degrees like I did necessarily. The lesson is that we need to continue to learn. We can learn from our mentors, we can learn from coaches, we can learn from our peers around us, from networks like this. Use every opportunity to possibly learn about yourself, learn about what's going on in the world, and learn about whatever your contribution is, how you can make it better for others. And so, of course, the university closed. My parents said to me after a few months, you can't sit at home like this. You're going to have to find a job. We're very sorry. We really can't afford to keep you going anymore. So I canceled my registration and I canceled my bursary, and I went to find a job. And I think there must be nothing worse in a society like ours with such high unemployment for youth, particularly, to go from interview to interview to be told that we regret to inform you. There is nothing more demoralizing than that. And so, of course, I went back to the university in September. I went and begged and pleaded. I didn't get a job. I begged and pleaded for them, please, to cancel my cancellations and to take me back. And then, of course, I knew I had to deliver and I had to get through it. And so, of course, I finished the first degree. I finished my higher diploma in education. And I went to teach at a school called Groenvlei Secondary in Lansdowne. I taught English for 4 years. It was my first job. And then I decided, hey, you did a first degree. You managed to succeed despite yourself. So onwards we go. So I did an honors through UNISA, and I'm sure those of you who studied through UNISA, you know how tough it is to study part-time and work full-time and be all of who you are within your social and domestic spaces and in your communities. So I want to say to you that there's so much resilience within us, and no matter how tough it gets, we have amazing ability within ourselves and with those around us to lift ourselves out of our adversity. And so, of course, I finished at honors. I went on to UWC to be a lecturer. I was there. I said, well, I may as well do a master's now. I'm here at a university. And in that same year, in 1988, I met Kevin. And of course, it was a great love story. Gratefully, Kevin and I are married for 27 years this year. And he needs a huge medal, Charlotte, because here is a person who gave me the room, gave me the space for me to be the very best that I could be, and still does to this day. So, so I'm truly grateful for having landed a good partner. Nothing is ever perfect in this life. That's the other lesson we need to understand. But I'm just grateful to have had someone who cares sufficiently about me to enable me to be me, and just be there. So anyway, his mom used to like to cut little things out of the newspaper. She still does, actually. And this one day, she clipped this thing out and she gave it to me, and it read something like this. It said, Harvard South Africa Fellowship open for application. And I was kind of, wow, her name is Jean. And she said, you can do this. I said, do you understand what Harvard is, where it is, what it will cost? And she says, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And what I learned from that is, well, first she believed in me before I believed in myself on this particular point. And she really thought that I could do this. And then the other lesson was, you've got to sometimes take a calculated risk and do something way out of the box, and so this is, I applied probably along with a few thousand others, and 5 of us get to go every year. They still do it. You can Google Harvard South African Fellowship and you can look. Every year they put 5 people through Harvard that are South Africans. And I was so fortunate, Charlotte, to have had this opportunity to go. The only downside of it was that I had to leave Kevin in South Africa, which was not a good thing. And there was no WhatsApps and emails. It was snail mail and long distance calls. But I also had to learn to be emotionally resilient and find my way through coping in a foreign country, in a high pace, high demand, high performance environment, and try to manage my emotions. So of course, again, one of the big things I learned at Harvard was the necessity and the importance of the people around you. Now, we know we inherit a lot of people, we inherit family and some friends and colleagues, and sometimes, they can be quite toxic. So you've got to be able to manage how much of your energy you're giving to that space. But what I learned, which is far more important, is to deliberately surround yourself with people who will uplift and inspire you. Even if it's 4 or 5 key people in your life that create a safety net for you, that care about you regardless of what the situations might be, that will be there for you. Find those people that will uplift and inspire you and take you up when you are down. And so so I had a very good fortune of having this experience at Harvard as well. And I had a supervisor, and he said to me, Shirley, you're going to do the doctorate. And I said, it's absolutely no chance. I have to go home. I have to sort my things out with Kevin. I have to get a job. I have to. And he said, I'll apply and you'll see, we'll see. I didn't have a bursary as well for that, or scholarship. Anyway, I managed to get into the doctoral program, and I thought I'll work 3 jobs here and there, which I did. And I did something else, and you can sit there and think whether you would have done such a thing. I came home and I said to Kevin, will you please go with me to Harvard to do my doctorate? And he said, yes, I'm going to come with you. So he gave up his job. He sold his motorbike and his LPs and whatever else he could. And he came with me to this foreign place. And it was very, very tough. We were working, he couldn't work because he had to wait for his work permit. I was trying to find, 3 jobs as a student assistant, as a graduate assistant, was never going to pay the fees. So in 3 or 4 months, I was completely and utterly bankrupt, nothing left. And I had to do the walk of shame and go and say to those people at Harvard in the financial aid office that I cannot pay. And I mean, even in these days, Charlotte, we know a lot of people are battling with their finances. And so I just want to encourage you, you must seek help if you need help, because we cannot carry these things. It takes a lot of courage to do that walk. And I sat there, I was very distressed, and she said to me, you know what, if you're going to continue to perform like this, we're going to support you. We're going to assist you with tuition fees. We're going to give you teaching fellowships, which means you work with 3 professors and you make some money every month. Only thing is that you're going to come here every 6 months and we're going to talk about performance. And the pressure was on. And so I graduated. I started in 93, graduated in 97 with a doctorate. And if that wasn't enough, Charlotte, we gave birth to Jamie in 1995. Smack bang in the middle of all of that. And you might say to me, but that wasn't such a great idea. I will tell you, I will do it again if I have to, right? So this book is dedicated to Jamie. And of course, we came out with our doctorates. We came on with Jamie, and you know, life has just been absolutely amazing in terms of roles opening up for me, cutting across into HR, which is another thing as well. All of my degrees are in education, and I, you know, could not find a job in education, so I had to, you know, cut across. And sometimes in life, we have to do these sorts of things. And we landed a job also in Pretoria. And again, Kevin and everybody had to pack up. Jamie had to come. His mom and dad came along with us. And people always say, how did you manage to live with your mother-in-law? I have to say that I have the very best mother-in-law. And she has always just been amazingly supportive. Gave up our house and everything that she does in Cape Town. People don't leave Cape Town, Charlotte, to go north. This is a reality. But we did this. And so off we went, and we used to come back and forth to Cape Town for vacations and so on. And this one particular year was no different. We just had a wonderful time here with family in Cape Town, and we were just driving back. It was the 3rd of January, 2003, at about 1:30 on a Friday afternoon, driving down the end to pass Cape Town International Airport, and somebody hit us from behind, Charlotte, and we lost Jamie in that car accident that day on the side of the road. He was 7 years old. He was such a joy, such a bubbly bundle of fun and energy, and our lives changed forever in that moment. I was very badly damaged. They didn't think I was going to make it for the first 24 hours. They weren't sure whether to tell me or not to tell me about Jamie. My mom and Kevin finally came to tell me, and I felt like my soul had been taken from my body in that moment. And every single day, I have to think about, you know, how wonderful it was just to have him for that 7 years. And again, it's that gratitude. That is the only way I could deal with my pain and my grief, was to say, thank you for the 7 years that I could have had with you, because if I didn't have you for the 7 years, my life would be very, very different, and definitely more diminished. So I just want to say that, you know, all of us have a story, Charlotte. All of us have had difficulty. All of us have had adversity and rejection and curveballs. We're now in a pandemic. We're facing financial crisis. There are many reasons for some of us to be feeling the distraction of, you know, what is going to happen to me into my future. And I want to say to you that, you know, we have to find a space to be actively hopeful, even in the face of calamity. And those people that you've surrounded yourself with, those are the people that will hold you up. But the other thing that I had to learn, Charlotte, was that often, you know, you think you've studied psychology and you know it all, and you can deal with your grief and your pain. I had to put my hand up and say, I need help. I need help. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do this surgery on my own brain and my emotions. And so we went for a few sessions of counseling, and I realized also at some point you can become quite dependent on that. So I had to say, Shirley, you will dig deep and you will pull yourself up out of this space, because it's a very difficult thing when you start going down the slippery slope into this dark, lonely space of despair and grief. and it's very difficult to pull yourself back from that. And so my life is actively surrounded by Jamie and the love that we had for each other, and the joy and the fun and the memories and the pain of losing him. And every day I have to get up and find that energy to move forward. And it's, you know, I have to say that I'm telling you the story because I know we all have a story, and sometimes our own pain is so hard that we can't even begin to articulate it, never mind find the courage to say, I actually do need to go for help. And it can be a very, very lonely space. And I really want to encourage women to say, please, it is possible to almost do the impossible. Let your test become your testimony. Let that resilience that is within you, that gives you the capacity to face the traumas of life, the misfortune and the agony that comes with it, so that you can rise from it in a more enhanced way and not be diminished by your adversity. I want to say also that, as Madiba also said, courage is not the absence of fear. So we all have fear. It's how we conquer that fear. And I had to get up from my pain, and I have to do this every day. Mindfully do it, living my life with purpose and meaning. That's what I have to do. Otherwise, all of this would actually be in vain. And yes, it does seem impossible, and until it's done every day. So I think it's very important as we get to the end of this Women's Month. And I know I spoke a lot now, Charlotte, so I'm going to be quiet in a few minutes.
Please, no. I mean, every word of yours is so powerful. So please don't stop.
Thank you so much. I want to say that we can only be the best, very best versions of ourselves. I want to say let's embrace our vulnerability. It's okay to be overwhelmed and anxious sometimes. And we need to support each other. Men and women together in this world need to support each other. And we know that during this time of COVID, things have become much, much worse, especially for women. I was just reading the statistics the other day. A few million people have already lost their jobs. 2/3 of those are women. And this is why we wrote this book, Charlotte. It is for those forgotten women, those women with small businesses that cannot afford to pay the rental, or cannot afford to pay their staff, or cannot afford to keep going at all anymore, where the relief has run dry and they have nowhere to turn. This is why this book has been written, so that we can support and help to fund in some small way. And it's not always about money. It's just to inspire hope and to be there for each other. And I think we live in a world where we need to care a lot more about each other. And that if we can find men in this world who can say no to gender-based violence, say yes to gender equality, and join us in the journey that says, let's build a better world for our children and our families and our communities. And I believe in the concept of faith over fear. Whatever your faith might be, that's your decision. But we don't have to live in this fear. We must find a way to ensure that women and children are safe in this world. And humanity needs this most right now. And I want to say to you as I close, thanks for listening so graciously. I want to wish you love and joy and safety and good health in these unprecedented times. And I want to say that it is just so wonderful to be part of an organization like Women of Stature, where we can truly make a difference in whatever small way it might be to the lives of people who are most vulnerable, and especially women who need it, and who need it right now. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Well, Shirley, your story is so empowering. Your story is so encouraging. You have certainly shown that you've got grit, and the grit that you show is sometimes the grit that we as women need to almost like experience, to say that we have actually pushed and we've pushed and we've pushed and we've not allowed anything to hold us back. it's just, as you say, it's just so sad that at a time like this, that especially during the pandemic and the lockdown, that it seems as though gender-based violence has increased. And as you say, the statistics are quite horrific, considering. Now, you as a woman, you've experienced a lot in your life, but with, as you say, with it being Women's Month, and you've given us some real pearls of wisdom there, Shirley, things that we can really attach ourselves to and really take into our own lives. But I know that we've just seen or heard yesterday that we now have a new political party that is now officially come into the political arena. My personal opinion about politics is that we need someone like a Shirley Zinn to take the helm, because if you did have the power for one day in this country, what would it be that you would like to see change, and that would make just the nation of this country a better, and the country a better place to live?
Oh, thank you so much, Charlotte. Oh, I dream about a day like that. But if I were president for a day, I would like to lead with empathy, with compassion, with care. I would like to really make sure that social injustice is stopped, and use everything possible in my power on that day to make sure that we can uproot it and uproot any injustice for good. I would, in this current context, we've had so much corruption and we've had so much unethical behavior, there's so much grandstanding, and we have seen huge incompetence, it's a simple thing. It probably comes down to my HR roots again, Charlotte. It says the very first thing you must do is have the very best leadership in place. Leadership that subscribes to ethics, to integrity, to dignity, to the highest standards of governance, that are, that can take decisions that are humanistic, that truly care about their people and make their people priority number one. If we can just get a little bit of that thinking into the minds of our current leaders, where it's all about self-service and self-interest. And I'm very, very worried about where we are right now as a nation, as we mull over, all of the challenges that we have faced during COVID, and that, that we've already been in an economic recession before we even started, and that we're in a worse space, and people are losing their jobs, people are losing the ability to cope in this disaster, because it's the financial challenges, and there are so many interrelated issues there around mental wellness, and so I want to appeal for leadership that is living in service of its people, that puts nation before party, that is, that we're going to find the very best leaders right from the top. We're going to surround myself, if I was the president, with gurus and experts in every single portfolio of governance. Those people are ethical, they are competent, they are credible, they are qualified to do the job. And I'm sure that if we put those people in place, and we cascade that down into the next levels of our provinces and our national organogram, we will be able to shift this country forward in the most definitive way. We have such a beautiful country, Charlotte, absolutely beautiful. I'm sitting here and looking at mountains, and I'm looking at the ocean, and we just have natural beauty here. And we need to find a way to tackle all of the issues that we are facing here, whether it be economic issues, whether it be gender-based violence issues, whether it be racially based issues, or these ideological arguments are fine to have when but when you need to focus on survival, and when so many people are unemployed and the inequalities are so deep and so wide, and when you have youth that don't get to have a good education and don't get to be employed, we have to ask ourselves some very, very hard questions about what kind of society are we creating and what are we leaving here for our children and their children. And so, Charlotte, there are many things that I would love to do, and I can see the opportunity to do it if we can just lift ourselves out of this space that we are in, that is dark and deep and never ending, around the scandals and the corruptions and the fights and the squabbles, and lift ourselves out of that into a place that says we are here to lead, we are here to lead with dignity, and we are here because we understand our mission and our purpose as leaders is to ensure that our people live peacefully, live holistic lives, and have what they deserve in this life. And so, yeah, those are some of the things, Charlotte. I'm putting it out there. I don't know if I'm putting my hand up, but I'm definitely putting it out there to say we can do this. We can. If we just have a change of heart and mind, it can be done.
I agree wholeheartedly with you, and I do think that the time has come that we need a woman in that powerful position, because with that comes the empathy, because you talk about it, that leaders should lead with empathy, and that they must not be self-indulgent, but rather serving their people and looking after the interest of their people. Now, your role in education has been clearly something that you have, deliberately driven through everything that you are doing is education. I know that you also started your own, I know that you've got a consulting firm and that you consult from a human resources perspective, and that you just continue to want to educate people. So educating leadership is also one of your important missions in life. And you also sit on a number of very, very important corporate boards, not so?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I've been very, very fortunate, Charlotte, to, if I just look back at my career and I look, when we left Cape Town for Pretoria and Johannesburg, I've had the opportunity to serve with the most amazing people, and create, great organizations that do have a culture of inclusion, that do care about their people, that do act when action is required and when perpetrators have to be held to account. Those are the same principles that have to be infused in everything that we do. So it's very fortunate to work at the South African Revenue Services, at Record Bankies, at Nedbank, at Standard Bank. And then I came home, and then Woolworths asked me to come and do a little stint with them as group head of HR. So I was very fortunate to be able to work in those sorts of organizations. And now I serve as a non-executive director on a few boards. They range from listed boards to non-listed to NPOs and NGOs and charities, and higher education, and there's one government in there. So it gives me a nice cross section of of what's happening and where are the big challenges, but mostly where are the big opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we can find a way as government, business, civil society, put our heads together and come up with one single united, vision of that, it will build cohesion as opposed to being fractious and divisive. If we can all just get up in the morning with a single-minded sense of purpose that says, we have a beautiful country and we are going to make sure that we are beautiful internally and externally to the world, and we're going to give our people opportunities. We're going to make sure that racism and sexism is, runs for the hills. We are going to make sure that we are building a society that is inclusive, that cares about environment, about people. If we can just wake up one morning and have that single-minded vision with the right leadership to drive it, I do believe, and I'm talking now when I put all of my experience together, we need to use our time wisely. We do not have forever to do the things that we need to do. And the clock is ticking. And I think many of us are very tired of being in this current situation. We want to see that silver lining, and we can see it, but we just need to find it within ourselves as a collective to move towards reaching out for it. And I remain optimistic. I have to remain optimistic, because in leadership roles, you have to remain optimistic. You have to work towards, the outcome that has been set for you there. And because otherwise you're going to be held accountable. And so I just want to encourage, I think if each one of us, right from where we are, if we can just do our little piece, the little pieces will add up to a big wave that can take us into a better future.
Well, wonderful, encouraging, powerful. I admire you, Shirley. You've always spoken with such power and such truth. I mean, it's just so much truth that you're speaking. And thank you so much for sharing this time with me. I certainly hope that those that have managed to be online with us have taken something from this for themselves, and to be encouraged, to be positive, to see opportunities, like you say. Opportunities knock on your door every single day. I don't ever think that it doesn't. It depends on your attitude and how you want to take that opportunity and how you want to work with that opportunity. So in passing, we've literally we're almost out of time, but just in terms of your very last golden nugget, then we're going to be saying goodbye, and obviously wishing everybody a wonderful Sunday afternoon, and hopefully you can rest up a bit, Shirley, because I know that you also run a tremendously busy schedule. So what would be the very last that you would say to the people, to the women out there?
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you so much. It's the last day of Women's Month. And in many ways, Women's Month, we want to celebrate, the amazing women that have achieved in this life and in this world, despite the odds. And we want to say, as we celebrate and as we close this month, we know that there's a lot of bittersweet that's going on because of the gender-based violence, the ongoing gender inequality, unequal pay for work of equal value. And I want to say to the women out there, be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. Take care of your do the inner work, and don't be shy to take the little bit of time out for yourself and give yourself a break, and not beat yourself up too much if things are not going the way that you'd like. I want to say, celebrate yourself, and believe in yourself that you can step up from wherever it is that you are, and you have the ability to do that. And if you need help, I want to encourage you to reach out and get that help, because it will uplift you and move you forward. I want to say to you in closing that you are worthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shirley. That was absolutely wonderful. So to everyone out there, Shirley actually has written the foreword of The Forgotten Woman, the South African story. It's a collection of 15 stories from 15 extraordinary, remarkable, phenomenal women. And the book is available online on Amazon Kindle as an ebook, currently running at a very special price. We still have one more day left of Women's Month, that's tomorrow, And I've got my last lady that I'm going to be interviewing, which is Dr. Catherine van Heerden. She's also an incredible woman with such an incredible story. In fact, it's heart-rendering to say the least. A lot of painful stories in this book, ladies. So I want to encourage you to take a moment, buy the book for yourself, or gift it to someone that you know would do, that it would definitely make an impact on them. And then I'm excited to say that the book is going to be published as a paperback as well. We're already taking orders. The order form is available on our Women of Stature website, so please go online and order your printed copy. We want to make sure you have these copies available for Christmas. I know Christmas, you think I'm crazy talking Christmas, but ladies, September is around the corner, and you know, September and October, once October comes, you must know that the rest of the year just flies. So to everyone, to you, Shirley, again, thank you. Great having you with me again. Appreciate your time. Bless everyone and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye.